over the last 6-7 years or so. I've been in Ireland 7 years. It was an interesting time to hop off the boat, April 2009. As I said, not much has happened. Now we can see development cycle moving ahead. What's going to be the response? What needs to be built? What are some of the big picture things happening in Ireland, in Europe, which could shape Ireland going forward? So look at some of the big changes, focus a little bit on the office market, where not much was built, and what might the supersizing strategy be? Let's just look across Europe. There's a 6-letter word which is probably going to be mentioned a lot today. See how long I can get away without saying it. Generally, there's a positive context across Europe at the moment. There's loads of money being flowing around, the weight of capital. Development cycle is moving fast, especially here in Dublin. Cork's doing some great stuff as well. Yeah, we know about rural Ireland has lots of big issues, which is clearly a part of the mix. Some of the headwinds though across Europe at the moment. China has been well documented at the start of this year. And here's the first time I'm going to mention it, the 6-letter word Brexit. What's that going to mean? We'll come on to that in a short while. There could be a big positive upside for Ireland, as a few people have started to talk about. Just to look at the investment volume across Europe at the moment, it's been on a large increase the last number of years. A lot of that the American institutions. If you look at where it was in 2009, where it is now, it's pretty significant. This is just looking at investment in second-tier European countries. Our research guys in London, in Helsinki, UK, Germany and France are so dominant, they account for 75% of all investment across Europe. Those countries between them account for 25%. Ireland still looks relatively small. I think it's still a fantastic, interesting investment opportunity, especially for development. Another big trend in Europe at the moment is the whole population issue. It's very live across the water, as I'm sure most of you know. You look at the depopulation that's been happening on Central and Eastern Europe from the late 1990s, and it's continued in the last 5 years or so. Where are all these people going to go? Ireland might well be an attractive location, especially if Brexit happens and it's a lot harder for Central and Eastern European people to go to the UK. And is it a surprise that, let's think about the EU Politburo, as some people might want to call them, is there any surprise we're having these problems with the Schengen and the single market, free movement of people, when you might be earning €1 in Central and Eastern Europe, and you've got the opportunity to earn €10 in Western Europe? You can see the big population increase. The UK is going to be the biggest European country by 2030, overtaking Germany potentially. Ireland is due to grow at a significant rate as well, so we're looking at about 500,000 additional people. But again, if Brexit happens, does that mean Ireland is going to attract and retain more people? More domestic people are going to stop emigrating and return, but increasingly people from overseas. Despite the recession, office employment growth over the last 10 years has been pretty strong. We're starting to get back to previous levels. A lot of this has been brought about by liberal employment regimes, the contract issue, which again is another live issue across Europe. We're seeing a protest in France. That could be positive for Ireland in terms of the amount of office space that's going to be needed. Looking at this graphic again, you can see the big successful European countries have been Ireland and the UK, highlighted there. And on the chart on the left, Central and Eastern Europe is coming from a very low base. The graphic on the right, the map of Europe, highlights how successful Ireland and Britain have been. Liberal labour markets, strength in the tech sector, the strength of organisations such as IDA Ireland in attracting and retaining FDI and the great indigenous businesses that Enterprise Ireland are starting to grow. This one is just showing the disruption that's been happening in employment, how companies are working over the last 10 years or so. You know, there's new ways of working. They're not new, there's nothing new under the sun, but technology over the last 10 years, allied to the recession, other political factors, is fundamentally changing how people work. I'm sure a lot of you find that in your own companies. We certainly do in Colliers. I found myself with a laptop connecting in via an app to my whole network, whether I've been in Shanghai, Hong Kong, or Florida this year, I can get the same connectivity as I could do in Dublin. One of the big sensitive changes, though, about this employment growth is a lot of it is more contract-based and self-employed. A lot of that is to do with the shakedown that impacted a huge number of us in the recession years. People have been coming back to work on a contract basis, or they've set up their own company and self-employed. So the chart here on the right-hand side illustrates that massive growth. It's probably about 15% growth, whereas actual full-time salaried employers has been decreasing. So again, that has implications for the type of office space that is going to be built and how it's going to be used in the years to come. Here's an interesting little bit of analysis I did. I looked at the UK TI, Foreign Direct Investment statistics for the year 2014-15, and we looked at the number of essentially office-based jobs, the dark blue here. The UK attracted about 1,000 FDI office projects, 2014-15, allowing a reasonably generous 12 square metres per employee. That equates to nearly 600,000 square metres of office space. So if Ireland could attract, say, 10% of that in 1 year, that equates to 58,000 square metres. Just rough and ready orders of magnitude. But if we think that happens in the years to come, over 5 years, that's a huge amount of office space that would need to be built if Ireland is to really capture this Brexit dividend. And put it into sort of real terms, the Capital Docks project here in Dublin equates for about 10 additional large-scale office buildings. Albert Quay in Cork, 15 of those office buildings. Is the construction sector set up to deliver this? And perhaps more to the point, is there the labour, is the talent pool which is going to be able to fill these jobs? Domestically, it might be a very tight labour market, but actually it comes back to that migration of skilled, clever people from elsewhere in Europe who might well come to Ireland to work in the years ahead. So what might be the big fundamentals for supersizing strategy? Big elephant in the room there. Is the public sector, is the political system really set up to deliver it? I've had senior people in local authorities saying national government just has not got to grips with cities and urban needs in Ireland. And I've seen that, and I think it's something government needs to address rapidly, and I think they are due to. I understand Minister Coveney is due to be announcing a new package of reforms and funding to support urban development. So it needs to be more urban-led. I think the focus has to be in Dublin, Cork, and let's call it the Galway and Limerick corridor. That's where the jobs that Ireland is going to attract and retain going forward. When millennials, I hate that phrase, Generation Y, are going to want to live. They're going to want to live and work and spend their time in good quality urban environments where they can meet people, where they can work collaboratively. The days of out-of-town business parks on farmland in the middle of nowhere hopefully are gone. They're not sustainable. We need high-quality, urban, dense, mixed-use development. 3 broad strategies then to deliver that. We need the improvement and development. We need much better management. I hinted about that, the local authority, the government system, and branding and marketing. This urban development, though, is complex. I've worked in 20 years on projects around the world, starting off in the big regenerations schemes that happened across the industrial cities of the UK. You need to hit the sweet spot of planning and infrastructure, property and finance, and markets and brand. Too many projects, they're all about infrastructure and planning. They don't consider the potential users. Who's going to be using this? How they're going to use it? That's why perhaps the architectural and the master planning team and marketing people need to come to the fore some more. Looking at the planning and infrastructure one, which might well interest a lot of you, there's great projects on the drawing board here in Dublin, but they're still on. They should have been started, like Data Interconnect. I think it's a fantastic project and would release so much capacity for Dublin. Crossrail and the impact that's having over in London. The skills are out there. A lot of you might have seen the Channel 4 programme which talked about it. There's loads of Irish expertise helping to deliver that. Bring them home. Property and finance. Again, I've hinted at this. And the colleagues previously just were talking about this is a big issue for them. How do we leverage scarce resources in the new world? I've been working with Glasgow City Council, something called City Deal, where UK government, Scottish government, local authorities, they all put together a package of funding to help release brownfield land by building the roads, providing the power connections, providing the water to attract the private sector to come in and develop. One on the right, Battersea Power Station, a couple of weeks ago, that fantastic project, you, me, the Irish taxpayer, sold off to the Malaysian government, who are now making an absolute killing. That used something called tax incremental financing, model developed in the US, it's operational across the UK. I know Sheffield used it in the recession years to help them bring forward office space so that when the good times returned, they would have a quantum of good modern office space to offer to the market. So these new funding and finance mechanisms, which ones are out there? Who's really bringing them forward? The third point I talked about is branding and marketing. We worked a lot in Cork and we helped to deliver their brand and marketing strategy. The aim there is to elevate Cork as Ireland's second-tier European city to complement the capital and to add more weight to Ireland's offer. This needs branding and marketing. It's not just about the logos and straplines, but it's just all about a project, a piece of city, or a city being really clear on what its offer to the market is. Every city, if you go to the big MIPIM conference, some of you might know about down in Cannes in south of France every March, you'll see over 350 European city regions and towns there promoting themselves as a great place to live, visit, invest. I've been for quite a few times. I don't think I've ever seen any of the great Irish cities or towns there. So some of the key success factors, I think one of the big one is sort of this, for big urban development, is try to get some insulation from the political factors and cycle. You need a powerful champion. It strikes me there's too many projects, which are great projects, they just get lost in the public sector system. There's not a good champion. Again, I've seen it where you see it with the mayors of London, Paris, the elected mayors that Manchester and Bristol have now, the US mayors. They're really powerful in just getting things done. I think what we want to aim for is what's called smart cities. So that's using technology as best as possible to help integrate a whole range of uses, whether it's new forms of living that colleagues previously were talking about, new forms of leisure, new ways of working. So I think it's positive that supersizing strategy for Ireland can really make sure Ireland continues to be the mantra of any destination, a great place to live, visit, and invest. I'm very passionate about Cork. I think Cork is really stepping up to the plate. There's getting on for, I think it's 100,000 square metres of business space under construction in the city centre and its fringes. That's really starting to provide the offer, the pipeline that domestic and international businesses will be looking for. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Any quick questions? Happy to answer them.